and I don't even care if anyone calls me a Sally, because I'm a snail and I never gonna fail. And you know what? You're gonna have to bail me out of that. Is totally falsified in every way.
For decades, Rob Reiner built a career telling stories about family, connection, and the complicated bonds that hold people together. From the outside, his life appeared just as steady as the films he created. But behind closed doors, that sense of stability had been quietly slipping away in ways few people truly understood. The most unsettling part is where everything unfolded, inside his own home, the one place meant to feel safe, familiar, and untouchable. What happened there didn't involve a stranger, a break-in, or anything random. It involved someone close, someone trusted.
I just come out to gather my sick thoughts.
And that reality turned everything upside down. For years, Rob's family had been carrying private concerns related to his son, Nick Reiner. Those struggles were known within a small circle and weighed heavily on the household. Still, no one imagined how intense things were about to become in the hours leading up to the night that changed everything. Investigators are now revisiting comments Nick had made in the past about his father, statements that feel unsettling when viewed in hindsight. At the time, they may not have seemed urgent. Now they suggest that warning signs didn't appear suddenly. They lingered quietly beneath the surface long before events reached a breaking point. The heartbreaking incident involving Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner unfolded late on December 13th, 2025. The evening was supposed to be festive, warm, filled with holiday spirit.
They know the David who go on stage, who has his ways about him, but they really want to know what's in.
Earlier that night, the couple attended a Christmas party hosted by Conan O'Brien. Friends, familiar faces, laughter, and celebration surrounded them. But beneath the music and decorations, something felt off. Multiple witnesses later told investigators that a heated argument broke out between Rob and Nick during the gathering. This wasn't a quiet disagreement brushed aside with forced smiles. Voices were raised. Tension filled the room.
The geniuses, the brilliant ones, the people I'm referring to.
Guests noticed immediately, exchanging uneasy looks as the mood shifted. Several people later described Nick's behavior as unsettling. Not explosive, but intense in a way that lingered. One guest reportedly told investigators that everyone felt on edge, a phrase that quickly became part of the timeline authorities began reconstructing. That moment stood out long after the party ended.
We're close to making a deal that will, of course, make him the worldwide star that he deserves to be.
$50 million on the line, and they were like practically just jacking me off.
Rob didn't escalate the situation, and he didn't walk away from it either. Witnesses say he tried to steady things, facing the moment directly while keeping his composure. Michelle stayed right by his side throughout. Together, they moved as a unit, calm, controlled, and deliberate. When they eventually left the party, it didn't look rushed or dramatic. It looked intentional, like parents choosing to handle a private family matter away from public eyes. To those watching, it seemed like two people trying to protect their family and regain balance as things felt like they were slipping.
My mouth is getting a little parched because of how much I'm talking to y'all, but this...
And we really haven't really delved into it.
Nothing about their departure suggested panic. If anything, it suggested restraint. Later that same night, Rob spoke on the phone with Eric Idle. According to Idle, the tone of the conversation couldn't have been more different from what witnesses had seen earlier. Rob sounded upbeat, engaged, and excited. They discussed creative ideas, including plans related to the long-anticipated Spinal Tap sequel. There was no sign of fear or distress in his voice. He sounded focused on the future. But in quieter moments before that night, Rob had shared something deeply concerning with a few close friends. He admitted he was afraid of his own son. Not out of anger, not out of frustration, out of genuine fear. It was the kind of fear that comes from feeling powerless while watching behavior you don't know how to manage or stop. At the time, those words stayed private. Soon, they would take on a much heavier meaning. In the early hours of December 14th, something devastating unfolded inside the Reiner home in Brentwood. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office later confirmed that the incident occurred before sunrise. The exact moment couldn't be pinpointed, but by mid-afternoon, concern turned into alarm. Their daughter, Romy Reiner, who lived across the street, became worried after repeated attempts to reach her parents went unanswered. She decided to check on them. The moment she entered the house, she knew something was wrong. She immediately called for help. Paramedics and LAPD officers rushed to the scene. Rob and Michelle were found unresponsive. Authorities secured the home and launched a full investigation, treating it as a serious domestic case from the very beginning. Almost immediately, one detail stood out and changed the direction of everything. There were no signs of forced entry. Doors and windows were intact. Nothing appeared broken or disturbed. That pointed investigators toward a chilling conclusion. Whoever was responsible hadn't broken in. They were either already inside or had been welcomed in willingly. Neighbors were questioned, but no one reported hearing anything unusual. No alarms, no shouting, no sounds of chaos. In a quiet Brentwood neighborhood where noise carries easily, that silence felt deeply unsettling. Detectives noted that whoever moved through the home did so calmly and deliberately, like someone familiar with the space. As investigators reconstructed the timeline, attention turned quickly to Nick. According to police records, he left the house shortly after the incident and arrived at the Pierside Hotel in Santa Monica around 4 a.m. Hotel staff later told officers his behavior appeared completely normal. He checked in calmly, spoke clearly, and showed no visible signs of distress. No panic, no confusion, no outward shock. After Nick checked out, investigators searched the hotel room and reportedly discovered evidence connecting him to what had occurred at the Brentwood home. That discovery placed him directly within the critical time frame of the investigation. His stay at the hotel was brief. Within hours, he had left again, moving quickly, not lingering in one place. Later that day, surveillance footage captured Nick at a gas station near Exposition Boulevard and Vermont Avenue. The video showed him walking in casually, grabbing a drink, paying, and leaving. He didn't appear rushed or nervous. Everything about his demeanor looked controlled and ordinary, a sharp contrast to what investigators believed had already taken place. By approximately 9:15 p.m. on December 14th, police located Nick near Exposition Park, just steps from the University of Southern California campus. Patrol cars surrounded the area in a calm but tense operation that unfolded in public view. Nick didn't resist. He didn't run. He followed instructions quietly. Within minutes, he was taken into custody without incident. No dramatic confrontation, no struggle, just silence, and handcuffs closing shut. By the end of that night, investigators were no longer guessing. They were connecting dots that formed a disturbing pattern: an argument, an eerily silent home, no forced entry, a quick departure, and a trail stretching from Brentwood to Santa Monica and beyond. And this was only the beginning of a story that would continue to raise questions far beyond one night. One question refused to fade as investigators moved forward. What actually happened inside that house? That single uncertainty pushed the case into a far darker and more complex phase. Once the Brentwood home was secured, forensic teams stepped in with careful precision. This wasn't about speculation or emotion. It was about evidence. Every room, every surface, every detail was examined methodically, with nothing dismissed as insignificant. With no security cameras inside the residence and no clear internal timestamps, investigators had to rely on science alone. Temperature readings, physical indicators, microscopic traces invisible to the untrained eye. Each piece helped reconstruct the final hours. One question guided every step. When did Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner lose their lives? And how did the sequence of events unfold? To narrow that window, specialists focused on biological markers that help estimate timing. These indicators allowed experts to determine that both Rob and Michelle passed away in the early morning hours, roughly 12 hours before they were discovered. That conclusion aligned with movement records and witness timelines already under review. The tragedy occurred during the quietest stretch of the night, when the neighborhood was asleep and unaware anything was wrong. That silence became a critical factor. No interruptions, no outside interference, just a contained environment where events unfolded unnoticed. From there, the investigation turned to the injuries themselves. Forensic reports documented multiple close-range injuries caused by a sharp-edged object. Investigators emphasized the technical nature of the findings, focusing on what the evidence showed rather than speculation. What stood out wasn't just the presence of injuries, but their repetition. From an investigative standpoint, repetition carries weight. It suggests sustained action rather than a single impulsive moment. Investigators don't interpret intent emotionally. They analyze patterns, and in this case, the pattern raised serious legal concerns. Based on those findings, Nick Reiner was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, 1 count for each parent. In California, first-degree charges represent the most serious classification, reserved for cases believed to involve deliberate action. But prosecutors went further. They added special circumstances due to multiple victims. That designation immediately elevated the case to the highest legal tier possible. This wasn't symbolic, it reshaped everything. With special circumstances attached, the potential consequences became the most severe allowed under the law. If convicted, Nick could face life imprisonment without parole, depending on how the case proceeds. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office made it clear this was the strongest charge available. Their statement signaled confidence in the forensic findings and the legal foundation supporting the accusations. At that moment, the case officially shifted from a tragic investigation into one of the most serious legal battles the city had seen in years. When Nick appeared before a judge for the first time, the weight of the situation became unmistakable. On the morning of December 17, 2025, he was escorted into a Los Angeles courtroom for his initial hearing. Until then, the case had existed through reports and official statements. Now it entered the public legal arena. Security was tight. No cameras, no live feeds, no broadcast coverage. Only a limited number of reporters, attorneys, and court officials were allowed inside. Those restrictions underscored just how sensitive the proceedings had become. When Nick entered, sheriff's deputies guided him directly to the defense table. The room fell silent. Observers noted the details immediately. Nick was wearing a harm prevention smock commonly used in high-risk custody situations. It was visible, unmistakable, and yet never mentioned aloud. The judge didn't acknowledge it. Attorneys didn't reference it. The hearing continued as if it wasn't there. That silence spoke volumes. The charges were read in clear, clinical, legal language. 2 counts of first-degree homicide. No commentary, no emotion. Just the formal weight of the law. When asked if he understood his rights, Nick responded calmly and briefly. That was the only time he spoke during the entire hearing. He entered no plea. He asked no questions. His expression remained neutral, controlled, and unreadable. The hearing then shifted to procedure. Nick's defense attorney requested a delay of the arraignment to allow additional time before entering any plea. The judge agreed without hesitation and set a new court date for January 7, 2026. The prosecution did not object. No arguments, no dramatics, just process. As Nick was escorted out, he remained silent. No statements were made by either side. Inside the courtroom, reporters exchanged quiet glances, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Outside those walls, the reaction escalated quickly. By that afternoon, attention turned to a question that refused to disappear. Who was paying for this defense? Legal insiders understood the reality. A case involving 2 first-degree charges with special circumstances can take years. Expert witnesses, extensive forensic reviews, endless pretrial motions. The costs add up fast. Estimates suggested that a defense of this scale could exceed $1 million long before a jury was ever selected. And that's where the mystery deepened. Nick had no known income or active career that could explain the resources required for such representation. Standing beside him in court was Alan Jackson, a legal heavyweight, known for handling high-profile cases under intense public scrutiny. His involvement sent a clear signal. This wasn't temporary. This was a long-term strategy. As the legal process moved forward, one thing became increasingly clear. This case was only beginning, and the questions surrounding it about timelines, responsibility, and resources were far from answered. That unanswered gap immediately sparked intense speculation. Across media circles and legal commentary, quiet theories began circulating about how such a high-level defense was being funded. Some insiders suggested that money connected to the Reiner family estate could be covering the costs. That possibility alone added another unsettling layer to a case that already refused to slow down. Almost overnight, new questions flooded the conversation. Was it even legally allowed to use family-linked assets for a defense of this magnitude? Legal experts were quick to explain that the answer isn't simple. In some situations, shared or inherited funds can legally be used for legal expenses. In others, doing so can trigger disputes, objections, or even court challenges from surviving family members. Everything depends on how assets are structured, who technically controls them, and whether restrictions are in place. Inside the courtroom, however, none of that was addressed. The judge didn't ask where the money was coming from. The defense didn't volunteer any explanation. Officially, the issue stayed off the record. Outside the courtroom, though, the debate only grew louder. Some argued that every individual, regardless of accusation, is entitled to the strongest defense available under the law. Others felt deeply uncomfortable with the idea that resources connected to the family might be used in this way. While the legal process remained procedural and restrained, emotions continued to boil everywhere else. Even within the Reiner family, things were reportedly complex. According to unconfirmed reports, some relatives weren't focused solely on punishment. Instead, they hoped that any legal process would also involve meaningful mental health treatment. To them, the situation wasn't just about charges. It was about years of unresolved struggles finally reaching a breaking point. The case had clearly moved beyond evidence files and legal codes. It was now entangled in questions of family responsibility, moral limits, and what justice should truly look like. Still, it's important to note that none of those internal discussions were officially confirmed. No filings. No sworn statements. Nothing publicly verifiable. From the prosecution's side, the message never shifted. They remained firm that the evidence supported the most serious charges available. They pointed to the severity of the incident and Nick's movements afterward, arguing that both met the required legal threshold. Because the case involved multiple victims, sentencing options were already extremely limited. If convicted, Nick Reiner would face only the most severe outcomes under the law. There were no reduced options attached to these charges. It simply did not get more serious than that. Meanwhile, the case continued evolving quietly behind the scenes. Detectives reviewed details. Attorneys refined strategies. Information not yet public continued circulating within legal circles. Among those closest to the investigation, there was a shared understanding that the next phase would be even heavier. The courtroom appeared calm, but pressure was building rapidly. And it soon became clear that Nick would not remain silent forever. Attention began shifting to things he had said long before the case ever reached court. Statements that suddenly carried new weight. In past interviews and conversations, Nick had spoken openly about his childhood. He admitted he never felt truly close to his father, Rob Reiner. He described an emotional distance that shaped how he saw himself within the family. Nick said he often felt like an outsider in his own home. He watched others connect, laugh, and share routines while he hovered on the edge, unsure how to fit in. By most accounts, Rob was a devoted and present father, successful, involved, and deeply committed to his family. He shared strong bonds with his other children through shared interests and consistent time together. But for Nick, those same spaces never quite clicked. It wasn't that Rob ignored him. If anything, he tried to provide everything he could, but long work hours and a demanding career can sometimes create emotional gaps without intention. Nick grew up surrounded by care, yet later admitted that care didn't always reach him the way he needed. That quiet sense of disconnection followed him as he got older. Instead of feeling grounded at home, he began searching for belonging elsewhere. He was drawn toward environments that promised escape rather than structure. That's when substance use entered his life. What started small quickly escalated by his mid-teens, becoming serious enough to require professional treatment. The family didn't hide it. They didn't deny it. They sought help repeatedly, trying to pull Nick back from something that was tightening its grip. Nick later acknowledged how powerful and destructive that cycle became. Progress would come, bringing hope, only for setbacks to follow and break it again. Every time it seemed like he was finally finding his footing, instability returned. He drifted between states, Maine, New Jersey, Texas, often without long-term stability. These weren't career moves or fresh starts. They were survival stretches marked by uncertainty. Through all of it, Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner never walked away. They stayed present, stayed involved. They poured in time, patience, love, and resources. Multiple treatment programs, constant check-ins, second chances whenever he stumbled. At one point, Rob tried a different approach, bringing Nick into his world of filmmaking. In 2015, they worked together on Being Charlie, a project inspired by Nick's personal experiences. For a moment, things looked different. Nick had structure, purpose, direction. People close to the family said he appeared steadier, more focused. But that stability didn't last. Old patterns slowly returned. Distance, unpredictability, collapse. Each setback drained not only Nick, but everyone around him. Over time, concern turned into fear. What once felt manageable no longer did. According to those close to the family, the worry shifted from recovery alone to safety. That emotional distance Nick once described from childhood never fully healed. Love mixed with guilt, hope mixed with disappointment. Years of effort that never quite connected. By the time of that Christmas party, the tension wasn't sudden. It had been building for years. That argument wasn't random. It was a breaking point long in the making. In the days that followed, the family spoke only once through a joint message from Jake Reiner and Roy Reiner. Their words focused solely on grief, shock, and love. They asked for privacy and have remained silent ever since. A private memorial followed. No cameras, no spectacle, just quiet remembrance. Tributes poured in across Hollywood, not just for Rob's work, but for who he was as a person. A steady presence, a trusted collaborator, someone who made others feel safe to create. Now the question turns to you. What do you think really happened? Do you believe Nick Reiner is responsible, or do you think there's more to this story still waiting to come out? If you found this breakdown thoughtful and informative, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others interested in careful, in-depth Hollywood stories. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below.